Oh, video games. Hello, Internet. We're back once again. It is Thursday. Thursday, right? Yep, Thursday at 10 p.m. It is September something, 28th. This is episode 4 of the RadJunk podcast. I'm your host, Joe Alonzo. I'm the owner of RadJunk, Rad Bar, and Really Rad Weekend. I own a retro video game store and an arcade bar and a retro video game convention that's all for charity. And this is our weekly thing where we talk about what's going on in my world and the world of games. Not so much modern stuff. Sometimes we touch on that. Mainly it's the retro scene, retro market, things happening at the store, things happening at the bar, things happening with the convention, just other things in life. Basically, this is my weekly outlet to ramble on about all the things happening around me because it's a lot, and it's sometimes it's interesting. I hope you find it interesting. I know that I listen to podcasts all the time, mainly Extra Napkins. Shout out to those guys and the Jeff Gersman Show and things like that, and MinMax and blah 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 blah. I drive a lot, so I have a lot of time to listen to podcasts. But yeah, we're here. I'm tired. I had blood work done today. For those that don't know, I'm a type 1 diabetic. So got some normal blood work done just to do the yearly checkup thing and make sure all my levels are good and I'm alive. I'm still alive. I'm still here. You can't get rid of me yet. It's been a long day of that and prepping for Really Rad Weekend. We're finalizing a lot of people's travel plans, getting some plane tickets paid for and all that. Hotel rooms booked and things straightened out because it's approaching. We're about a month and a half out from Really Rad Weekend 2023. This is our second year since the rebrand to Really Rad Weekend. We are formerly known as Emerald Coast Con. However, after we took a slight break to get the bar open and the state of the world and all that, we decided to rebrand to be more on brand with all of our rad things. So here we are. I'll just touch on this real quick. Really Rad Weekend is a charity event where we give all of the money to a charity. This year it's Fresh Start for Children and Families. They help homeless families get on their feet and find housing and kind of reestablish themselves in the world. It's a great charity, and so we donate all of the money, every single penny, to them. In years past, we've done different charities, but this year we're going to choose them. And then we also have a charity Street Fighter match between myself and Shady J of Retropalooza and the Game Chasers, where the loser of the match has to donate $500 to the charity of the winner's choice. Last year we played Tekken. I got destroyed. This year, I hope I have a little bit of a better chance. I think we're playing Street Fighter 6, but we talked about maybe playing Third Strike, so that's cool. I know a lot of the Texas crew's coming out, which will be a good time. A lot of them that haven't been to our convention yet. We're the laid-back, fun convention. Not that the other ones aren't fun, but we're here to party. We've got a cosplay pool party happening. Got the guys from Extra Napkins are going to DJ. We might even have like a Philly cheesesteak contest going on. Just some wild stuff, but it's all for a good cause, and it's a good chance to meet your favorite content creators in the retro gaming space and things like that. So, $1,000 cosplay contest, $1,000 Smash Brothers tournament, more money tournaments for different games and retro game challenges. But at the end of the day, we just want everybody to hang out. It's a good reason to vacation on the beach. Come do some retro video game things, bring your family. Take long walks on the beach, eat some food. And that's November 11th and 12th this year. So get your tickets. They're on sale now for a discounted rate. And that rate will be going up at the door. So head over to reallyradweekend.com and do that. Also, shout out to Extra Napkins. Those guys are troopers. They're going to be our purveyors of fun. And so check out their podcast. They've got a Patreon, all kinds of stuff. And yeah, so like I said, this is our weekly podcast. We've got our live Twitch chat going on. So if I don't interact with the chat too much, like Big Wild Blue in here. How are you? Focusing more on recording to get this thing uploaded to YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all that jazz. Yeah, so really rad weekend prep is going on. I'm looking at my notes here. I actually make notes for this. That's like a thing in my life that I don't do. Normally I fly by the seat of my pants. However, for this, just to keep my brain in order, I do make show notes. And I save them all so I can go back and reference them later. Maybe I'll post them in the YouTube description or comments or whatever. I am exhausted. So, what else is going on? Lots of repairs this week. The girls gave me another bag of handhelds to repair. So went through those, diagnosed, and ordered parts as needed. Lots of speaker repairs on original Game Boys, Game Boy Advances, Game Boy Colors. It's a really common issue. The speakers in them are pretty crappy. So I ordered a bunch of those. I'm waiting on them to get here because I ran out. You just solder them in real quick. It doesn't take long, but it refreshes the Game Boy back to life. A lot of PSPs lately. Both faulty UMD drives, so you have to replace the laser, and then also just loud UMD drives. And if you've ever heard a PSP with a loud UMD drive, especially the Slims, it sounds like a freaking airplane taking off. And it might explode. It's crazy, but quick fix for that. If you pop the UMD drive open and you get a little bit of sewing oil, they sell some sewing oil that has a really long like metal needle on it, which is ideal. There's a little port near the screw motor or the screw shaft thing that you can drop some oil in there and it clears it up. So a lot of those. I've got a couple PSPs on the bench that surprisingly have broken screens. I don't see that a whole lot with with PSPs, because they kind of have like a plastic cover on the faceplate that protects the screen. But oddly enough, I've seen some broken ones this week. So I've got one on the bench that I've been tinkering with for a while. It looks like somebody else had been in there before me, and I thought it was just a bad ribbon cable, but it looks like it's an actual like problem. I don't know if I'm going to be able to fix that one, because it could be on the motherboard or something in that regard, but I'm going to try to knock it out. What else? I've got another one with just a legit crack screen, which I don't know how that happened. So going through those, trying to clear those up because we need handhelds always. I mean, they're really popular, but we'll get to that in our like market report area of the podcast in a little while. What else? I feel like I fixed something else. I made a list of repairs that we're going to have to do at the bar before Really Rad Weekend to get all of the machines in order. Some of those repairs involve replacing seat sliders on racing games and cleaning the dance pad on Pump It Up just so it's more responsive and it actually registers. I'm going to install some new card readers and Initial D. Pinball is actually solid, minus Guardians, which I'm waiting on parts. I think I mentioned that in the last podcast. There was something else that we needed. I need to replace the chassis on Mortal Kombat 3. A few things like that. So, bar's in pretty good shape right now. Tonight's our Thirsty Thursday thing where we get new beers in every Thursday. And it's $1 off draft beers all night, which is awesome. We got some really good stuff right now. We got in a new Untitled Art beer that's like a blueberry thing that sounds really good. I'm going to try that tomorrow. Or Saturday. I keep forgetting. Today is Thursday. I'm going to take my son to the zoo tomorrow because he wants to see lions and monkeys. What else? So, since we're on the subject of handhelds, or we were on the subject of handhelds, one of the things I love is, it's actually right here, it's kind of dirty, is my analog pocket. Oh look, copy of Space Marauder in the back. How interesting. So, the analog pocket, for those that don't know, I'm sure most of you do that listen to this or watch this live, is an FPGA emulation device that is a handheld. It's got a really high quality screen. It's made by Analog. They do a lot of cool stuff. and I love the products they put out. So I also have a big handheld collection. It's back there on a couple of those shelves. And I am sold on this device 100%. I got it when it came out. I love it. But a few weeks ago, they sent out an email and they released some glow in the dark variants of the Pocket. So the body glows in the dark. It's like green. It's pretty cool. Just like the old school glow in the dark stuff. And then this past week, a few days ago, and I think pre-orders start tomorrow, they announced that they're putting out some translucent variants of the Pocket. So they've got like an atomic purple and more or less all of the like fantastic colors or the colors of like the Game Boy Pocket that were translucent and see-through that we all loved in the 90s. And I haven't decided if I'm going to try to get one. However, what's interesting is I'm seeing a lot of people, and I've noticed this trend in the photography world before, which is another thing that I come from, where the same product comes out, but in a slightly different way. So everybody sells their previous one to buy the new one, and then it drives the market up. So I'm sure we're going to see scalpers aplenty tomorrow morning. But if you're on the fence about an analog Pocket, I highly recommend it. I think it's worth it. It's cool to see them putting some variation out there other than just the black and the white models, which is neat. However, I don't think we need all of these variations because it does some really interesting things to the secondary market for these devices. But yeah, tomorrow those go live. So if you're on the fence about ordering an analog Pocket and you wanted some like something different, tomorrow might be your chance. So that's cool. Super excited to see more people get those in their hands and then see where the handheld market goes from there. And then speaking of market trends, we are going to jump into our market trend section. So we've tried to like touch a little bit on this every week. I know last week we didn't, and then the week before, or the episode before, we got into it very lightly and talking about Wii stuff. So I pulled some reports today just to kind of see where we were at for the month of September as far as sales go. And without discussing numbers wise, the categories have kind of shifted. So for a while, we were seeing GameCube as being the top seller, even though, it was the most requested and whatnot. However, this summer, even as early as late spring, everything started to shift a little bit, where the things that were popular a year ago are starting to lose their heat and their momentum, and we're starting to see the tide shift. And this happens a lot when you see a new generation or sector of people that had a certain console when they were the prime age for that nostalgia hook and that punch, where they're starting to get jobs that allow them to afford to collect games or rebuy things that they had as kids. And I think this month is very indicative of a shift in that nature. And so our top sales, categorically speaking, and in this order, the number one, this is an oddball one because I didn't think this would happen. So we have all of our sales stuff broken up as far as like handheld, different console generation and whatnot. Our number one seller for the month of September was the Game Boy category, like both the original Game Boy and Game Boy Color, which is kind of rad since, I love handheld stuff like we were just talking about with the Analog Pocket in my collection. I tend to lean towards those because I can still find games that I haven't necessarily played or am familiar with, so I can find some new stuff. Because when you're in the business of retro video games for so long, there's only so much new stuff you can discover. And while there are console realms that you can find things on, I feel like the Game Boy and handheld area is the most vast as far as new games to play outside of like shovelware on the Wii. So Game Boy was number one, followed up by the Xbox 360, which is where we're starting to see that generational shift. PS2, which is always strong and in the upper tier for us. GameCube, which is still hanging on. But then PS3 is coming up from the rear, and it's starting to pick up, which is interesting because the PS3 generation, I feel, as a console, while a lot of people had PS3s, they all played the same games. So it had these large story driven narrative games like The Last of Us and Uncharted and all that jazz. Um, Everybody's kind of played them. And when you think about collecting or people going back to play games, the areas that you see them purchasing in or the heavier purchasing is typically the places where they can find new things. So the fact that PS3 has a library that is primarily comprised of the games that everybody played and those system seller games, it's interesting to see people dive into it. And I'm not sure exactly how big the PlayStation 3 library is. I haven't looked at those raw numbers. If I had to guess, it's probably around the 1100 mark, maybe slightly less, maybe 800 mark. Games domestically, that's not worldwide. So it'll be fun to see like what comes out of this and what people discover or what takes those top spots as those games start to be unveiled as like quote unquote hidden gems or things you must buy that are on the fence. So normally we see the horror genre pop up pretty high. So maybe some of the Saw games or things like that will go up there, or the oddball titles like Africa. Things in there. I mean, for a while, Puppeteer was up there pretty high, around the $100 mark. I think it's down right now. I want to say it's like 60 to 70, shooting from the hip. I know Lollipop Chainsaw was up there. Things like that. And there's going to be some games that are revealed to be harder to find, but at the same time, in that library, you have to watch out for things where it is not so much a market manipulation, but there's a lot of hype driven games where it's like people jump on the bandwagon to buy that game immediately. So sales go up, which creates an artificial demand because of that. Like, I mean, I guess it's real demand. However, it's not driven by people wanting to play the game. They just, they want to hoard the game to buy more to increase the value. Market manipulation at its finest. But yeah, it'll be cool to see what happens with the PS3 stuff, and if it maintains that sort of presence in those sales reports as we go into the holidays and then beyond. So, like I said, handhelds are still hot. Selling lots of Game Boys, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Colors, Game Boy Pockets, blah, 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 DSs. And then as we get closer to Christmas, that's going to pick up because a lot of people, for that nostalgia drip, they go to those first. Because it's a good little gift that you can hand somebody, and like they don't have to hook it up to the TV. They can carry it around. You buy them their Pokemon games, and they're set. So that's always hot, especially towards the end of September all the way to January, as people go into the holidays and have holiday money to spend. 3DS is doing good. It's out of production. People are trying to buy up some of those titles. 360 is cool. We talked about PS3 getting hot. I think 360 might have some undiscovered country or territory as well, where most people played their Halos and Forzas and things like that. But there's some games, like some shooters. There's only a few, like Odomedius and Death Smiles, and I'm trying to think. There's another one. There's Raiden. There's 2 Raiden games. And I think a lot of those are really good for the console. And then you're going to see a lot of games that were just overlooked because everybody was playing online multiplayer with their friends. That's just how it goes. So I'm really happy to see that generation of consoles, both PS3 and 360, picking up steam, and some of these games start to find their fizz or their magic a little bit, to see where the market goes with them. But people are starting to shop for the holidays, so you are going to see a lot of purchases as far as like the normal things. Like I said, Pokemons, Mario parties, standard shop stock. It's the normal wave. We all take a little bit of dip after the summer as kids go back to school and people aren't really playing games that much, and then or they're playing new games, and then before Christmas and the holidays, the retro stuff starts to pick up hardcore. So yeah, that's part of our market report. So I was having an interesting conversation earlier with a lot of the Tampa group. Communicate with those guys a lot. They're about 6 or 7 hours south of me, but there's a lot of solid people down there, and always some interesting game conversation. I may have been stirring the pot a little bit today, just because I like to, it's fun. I like to see where people where they want to see the market go. Not just from a sales perspective, but as far as like game stuff. So today, I believe they announced that, what was it, Dementium on the DS is getting a remake or a remaster, and it's coming to the Switch. And while that's cool for availability and accessibility for people to play, it's interesting because it brings up the conversation of, are remakes good or bad for the market? And the market being the retro video game market, as I am a retro video game owner, and a lot of people that listen to this are into the reselling scene or the game store ownership thing or whatever. And we've seen it go both ways, where a game can be remade and brought out onto a newer platform, and people want to buy it and collect the old physical copy because it's tangible, it looks good on a shelf, it fits their collecting nature, what have you. So, but the interesting part is I see an argument a lot where people talk about they want a game to be remade, to be put into the hands of more people so they can play it more. And that's an interesting argument because while I think it would be, we'll just use an example here, Space Marauder. It's in my Game Boy Color right now, right? It's a multi-directional shooter. It's pretty good. Plays a lot like Scat or Forgotten Worlds. Starting to become pricey on the Game Boy. I believe it's over $100. It's pretty uncommon. So imagine that they re-release that tomorrow, and I want more people to play that game because I want my friend group to play it so I can talk to them about the game. And so that's like part of the argument. But do these people really want more people to play it, or do they just want it to be remade so they have more accessibility to it or access to it in a way that is not so expensive? And if that's the case, then that is fantastic. Because, not everybody wants to pay that much for a game or can pay that much for a game. So in that same regard, there's a lot of talk about these re-releases and game preservation. And I had an interesting thought where, is it more about the preservation of the property and the actual like game itself, or is physical preservation of that game in its original medium and fabrication more important than preserving the game code at this point, since everything's been dumped more or less from these older consoles? And the Video Game History Foundation, who does great work, and shout out to Kelsey, who will be a guest at Really Rad Weekend this year. Shameless plug for the con. They put out a report not too long ago about how X amount of games have not been preserved in some form or fashion. And a lot of that, I think, has to do, there's some data I'd like to see there to correlate what platforms and what games have not been dumped and the basis of data that has been. But it's like, what do I value more? Do I value the preservation of this physical cartridge, or do I value the digital being of this game for X amount of time into the future so more people can play it? And in the same breath, do I want it to be remade to be put on newer platforms? And if so, if they release that game at the original price it was when it came out for its original retail release, would I still feel happy about it? Would you? I don't know. This is all just food for thought, and it's one of my like rambling moments where like my thoughts were just going, and I was like, Man, there's a lot of different angles here because it's almost selfish to say that I want a game remade when I only want it to be remade. Like, what is the reasoning? Why do you want games remade? I don't know. Comment on the thing and tell me if there's a game that you want remade and why you want it remade, and stuff like that, because it's so odd. It's like, I don't think. I mean, we've seen it in the past, right? Like Earthbound got put on the Super Nintendo Classic. Everybody thought Earthbound prices were gonna tank, like get buried. But guess what? Earthbound's more expensive than it's ever been. Um, Viper in the Twitch chat says I'd prefer pretty much nothing gets remade. Honestly, just port stuff over. Yeah, I mean that's a good point too. Porting it versus remaking it, that's a whole different conversation because there are a lot of games that get remade, and I think uh, I think there is ground for some games to be remade in a modern capacity that were potentially not so great when they originally released. And I'm trying to think a game off the top of my head. And the first system that comes to mind is maybe something on the N64 where the game had a great concept, but it was hindered by the limitations of both the console and the times that it was created. And now that we are in an era where the technology exists to make these games live up to their original design thoughts and design processes, that might be a good case for like, hey, this needs to be actually remade or quote unquote remastered. And yeah, Final Fantasy VII is a good example. I am not a Final Fantasy fan. I know that, shocker. So I can't speak to the remake or the original too much, but I think a lot of people like the direction that it went in because it went from turn-based combat to more of an action-oriented gameplay style, and that might be outside of, the obvious business reasons from Square. That might be a good example of a game that was remade in a way where people would love it now versus and still get the same story and the same feeling that somebody did, 25 years ago or whenever it released. I think it was 1997. And they can evoke those same emotions and feelings now. But in a modern medium, it's like, translating something that was a storybook in the early 1900s into a movie. And I know that's not always a good example because a lot of people always say the book is better than the movie. But that's kind of the point, is like there's always a way to translate something into something newer. Now, when it comes to just re-releasing a game and porting a game over, I think Nintendo does a good job. While their release cadence may be a little bit slower and not so uniform with their Nintendo Switch Online stuff, where they drop a few games in and you can just fire it up and play on an NES game, or you can play, like, I think they added 3D Hot Rally not too long ago, which is crazy to me because that's a Famicom Disk System game. And things like that, I think that's really cool. However, I think begging for remakes and ports and whatever of certain games might be a little selfish and a little odd. Odd not in a bad way, but just odd because I think what happens is there's like, I think the example earlier was Skies of Arcadia, right? Fantastic game. Played it when it came out on Dreamcast. It was eventually brought to the GameCube later on, but there's a lot of people that really, it has a cult following that is now turned into sort of an internet thing where I believe a lot of people who haven't played the game have this like romanticized version in their head of what that game is, despite how great it is anyway. And so they just jump on the train of like, hey, we need this remade. Hey, we need this remade. And it's, the business case isn't always there from like a former software dev product person. Like like I said, the business case isn't always there. Would I like to see it remade and have that physical Switch copy on my shelf? Yeah, of course. But I don't think people always think that far ahead with that type of thing. And there's a whole lot of reasoning and business sense that has to go into this stuff. So there's all kinds of different angles. I think overall, remakes and ports don't hurt the market as much as people think. However, there's something special, both emotionally and mentally, about finding a cartridge somewhere, whether it be a thrift store, a retro video game store, or wherever. Like if I walked into my store tomorrow and I found Kung Fu Brothers on the NES, I would absolutely buy it because that is a game that I played as a child, and I would want to take it home in cartridge form and plug it into a Nintendo or whatever console I have hooked up to my TV and play it in that fashion versus being able to just load it up on an emulator or, on my Switch and play it that way, because it's almost too easy and you don't get that same feeling. And I guess it really comes down to why you're collecting, why you're playing games, what games you like to play, and then in what format you want to play your games. There are some people in this world that don't give any care in their entire lives about having a physical cartridge of a game to put into this machine. They would rather load up a ROM, check out the game, and it's purely about the gameplay to them or that feeling that they get when they play the game, not so much the nostalgia factor. And guess what? That is 100% fine. And that's why, collecting's not for everybody. That's why everybody's into different things, and that's okay. But I think that kind of falling in love with the idea of these remakes and these ports and whatnot, for certain reasons, just because Reddit told you that you need to, is not a very good basis. That's it's interesting. It's real interesting to see people champion certain things, and I don't know if they know why they're championing them or like fighting for them. But yeah, that's a thing. So I don't know. Just things to think about. What do you guys think about remakes? What do you think about ports? Drop some comments on the YouTube or an email or wherever you listen to this podcast, because we have lots of different outlets for all that. So I don't know. I just wanted to bring that up on here just because it was kind of like I've been thinking about it since it came up today, and I don't know. There's lots of different things, and then there's lots of discussion about companies like Limited Run re-releasing games, because that's a whole FOMO aspect of buying and collecting that's interesting. And at any minute, they could hit a reprint button on something and flood the market, and that game you thought was pretty rare is no longer too rare. What else do we have going on this week? I'm trying to think. So my birthday is in like 2 weeks. It's October 13th. I'm going to be old. I'm going to be 37. I'll be 37 on the 13th. Does that make me elite? For those of you that are old school Hackers fans. And we're doing a birthday thing at the bar. Basically, I'm turning into emo night, like mini emo night, because we do like an emo New Year's Eve thing. So that'll be fun. The girls photoshopped me onto a punk rock flyer. It's also my friend Kara's birthday, so we're going to celebrate with some drinks and some games. What else? Trade night is happening October 7th. That's our monthly swap meet where we allow people to come into the store and buy, sell, and trade their own games amongst each other. It's crazy and counterintuitive to business, but it's our fun thing that we've been doing for years. Our buddy Dave started it years ago, passed the torch to us. Now he does them in Tampa. We do them up here, and it's a good time. There's free pizza. There's drinks. Then we all head to the bar after. I'm hoping to find some cool stuff this trade night. Like I said, I'm still on my collecting kick of handheld things. So I want to try and dive a little bit more into specifically the clear cart Game Boy Color genre in Realm. I've pretty much exhausted the standard Game Boy Gray Cart library, um, but I want to try and find some games that are more clear cart games, like Space Marauder, that have some Game Boy Color specific features and things like that. Like Mission Impossible uses the IR sensor because you can use it as a universal remote, which there was a rumor going around when that game came out that you could unlock certain cars with the IR blaster on the Game Boy Color, which is really funny to me. Um, so yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking for at trade night. Maybe I'll find some of that. Maybe I won't, but willing to trade for it. We also got in some sealed horror games and some RPGs yesterday in a trade, which is pretty cool. There was like a Xenosaga 3 in there, some Fatal Frames, all sealed, like nice Y-folds. Those will be hitting the shelves probably in a week or two after we, process them and hold them and all that, which is cool. Trying to think of any other trades that we got in. We got a Quake like collector's edition, the limited run one, but it was on PS4. I have one on the Switch, but I can't remember if it was that same one, and I was really tempted to bring it home. I won't lie. What else? I found a game the other day that was a Capcom game on the NES, and it actually played like Zelda meets like a Chinese RPG, almost like a Koei game that I can't remember the name of. I had never seen that. I used to collect NES, and I found a game that I had never seen before, which is odd. Um, what else we got going on? So there was something I was going to talk about. I think we're going to bring back Drunk Girl Gaming soon. I kind of cleaned up this room, and streaming setup is pretty much ready to go, more or less. I can't find my headphones. I haven't been recording with headphones, so I'm sorry if the audio's like in and out because I can't monitor myself. I lost my damn headphones, and it's driving me nuts, and I don't want to buy new ones because they're expensive and it's annoying. So yeah, we'll probably be producing some Drunk Girl Gaming content soon. Oh, so I know we've talked about it before with like filthy consoles and cleaning and trade-ins and whatever. So last night, I'm digging around in the garage and I have a stack of repairs, right? Consoles, whatever. Things that I need to get working that were traded in or donated. I guess somebody did not clean out a PS4 very good and it started crawling. It was late at night. It freaked me out. The lights turned off in the garage. All of a sudden, there's bugs everywhere. So today, I went to Home Depot and I purchased a bunch of bins and bug killer, just all this stuff. So over the next week or two, I'm going to be pulling everything out of the garage. Now that the weather's nice, cleaning it all out, exterminating, and then rebinning it and organizing. I bought some shelves. And things like that because I can't stand when bugs are in consoles. And that PS4 went straight into the dumpster, never to be seen again. I almost got the torch because now they've invaded my space, and that's not good. So as we reorganize the garage, I'm going to start going through, and I've discovered like at least 30 bags in the past 2 weeks that were either from trade night or the shop or things that I picked up along the way. And there's things like freaking Street Fighter the movie, the game, stuck in a bag with like a $200 Game Boy game and just like all this crazy stuff. So I'm going to try and go through and organize all of that in a way that is accessible or can determine what needs to go to the shop or be sold at Really Rad Weekend or repaired. And that should be fun because there's a lot of stuff in there that I'm sure that I haven't seen in a very long time. So it'll be like rediscovering those things in the wild. in a certain regard. And maybe we'll film in there or record in there as we're going through some things. And we'll put some content like that on the YouTube channel, which is just youtube.com/radjunk. We try to post when we can. I still have not edited my Texas Retropalooza pickups video. I will try and do that tonight. I've just been insanely busy between the bar and handling medical stuff before we go out of town, and really rad weekend and whatever. And then the shop. Been getting a good chunk of battery replacements recently, so that's fun as always. Also, I repaired. So at Retropalooza, shout out to Josh Kosharski in South Florida. He was at an auction and found an RCA Art Deco TV. And it's basically a small CRT that RCA made at, it almost looks 70s to me. Maybe a little earlier. And it's got like a pattern on it that's like a checkered board, like almost like psychedelic, like with twists in it pattern. And it's a black and white CRTV. It's only got UHF and VHF screw terminals. But I really like smaller CRTs from that era. And I took that apart. He picked it up for me at an auction. I sent him some money, and then he delivered it to me. Funny enough, we're both from Florida. He delivered it to me in Dallas at Retropalooza. So the other day I took it apart, which, disclaimer, don't do that at home, kids, unless you are prepared for the consequences of getting fried by a CRT TV, because they are not fun. I work on them at the arcade a lot, so I have a lot of experience. I've got tools and whatnot to handle that type of thing. But it wasn't displaying a picture. I was getting some weird static and distortion on it whenever I would hook up an NES. I was trying to run an HDMI converter to RCA to UHF or VHF to try and get some stuff on the screen, because I have a project that I'm working on for Really Rad Weekend. And I pop it open because I wasn't getting the picture. And interestingly enough, it's similar to like for the arcade nerds out there, it's almost like a Geo 7, I believe. I think it's the Geo 7 that has sort of these like cards that pop into slots on the monitor chassis that control the picture and the adjustment and all that. And I guess it was to be like easily replaceable. However, they're so old, nobody makes the parts anymore. But I had a card like that, and all I did was like push it down a little bit, and I felt it pop into place. And all of a sudden, I'm playing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, The Manhattan Project, in black and white on an old school CRT. So I knocked that out, and that was a pretty cool win when it comes to some of these things, because I have a bunch more. There's one like behind me that's small. It's got like a handle. I've got two of those. I think they're 5-inch CRTs. And I've got a project I'm working on where I'm gonna like daisy chain them together and do some dumb stuff, probably for the con. And speaking of projects for the con, last year for all of our guests we laser cut badges and then hand painted them on acrylic. So they were pretty cool. Everybody loved them. They looked like NES carts, and you could pop them into a light up base, so they kind of glowed. This year, I knew some people were going to want, like, not to copy it, but to do something similar, and I haven't seen anybody do anything yet. But I had to up the ante, and I ordered some things yesterday or the day before to build some badges for the convention that, if they work out, they're going to be the coolest things I have ever built. Basically, I had to order 20 Raspberry Pis, and that's all I'll say. And I ordered 20 Raspberry Pi Picos that should be here in a couple weeks, along with a couple other things. And we're going to test fit some things and cut some templates. And my buddy's probably going to help me, along with Kenna, our graphics girl. And we're going to try and make something happen for the convention this year that is that should be very special. So all of our guests will get those, and I'm going to make one for myself. And then Greg Honeycutt knows what it is, and I'm going to send him one too, because he really wanted one after I told him what I was building. So I'm gonna make a special one for Greg if they work out. There's a little bit of trial and error in there, and some programming that I have to do, but we'll see. I'm super excited about those, and we'll talk about it more once the parts come in and I get a working prototype. Speaking of Raspberry Pis, they announced the Raspberry Pi 5 today after, 4 years of the Raspberry Pi 4, maybe 5 years. It's got new in-house silicone, a little bit more powerful. It's got dual HDMI out, supports 4K. Apparently there's some camera upgrades and USB upgrades. So it'll be interesting to see what the emulation community does with the new Raspberry Pi that's on custom silicone, and see what systems we can emulate up to. Because a lot of people have been doing stuff with the ARM processors and Snapdragons. So if you look at the Ambernic devices and the Powkitties and things like that, the emulation's getting really good. But I'm curious to see what the Raspberry Pi 5 has in store for us. I believe the 4 gig, this is something I don't have notes on, so I'm just freestyling at this point. I believe the 4 gigabyte model, that's 4 gigabytes of RAM, is $60, and I believe the 8 gigabyte model is $80. Someone correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But that could be a cool little device to do some projects with, emulation or not. So I'm going to try and get my hands on one of those when they come out. Just see what we can do. And we'll try some stuff out. In the week ahead, though, as we kind of wind down our notes, because I've gotten through all of our topics. I didn't have any Q&A this week. I forgot to put out the question. Honestly, time got away from me. But coming up, we have garage organization and cleaning. That's priority number 1. Molly is off this weekend, so Sam and I will be at the shop along with Allie. I've got some projects at the shop I want to knock out. Hopefully these Game Boy speakers get here soon, because I've got probably like 60 Game Boys that need speakers. And then I've been trying to find a good source for some drop-in IPS screens, just for ease of use, because I've probably got another 60 DMGs that I just don't want to put back together with stock screens. It'll be good to have that kind of stuff before Christmas time, but I don't care to have an IPS screen. I know a lot of people do now that want that experience. I feel like the IPS screens are too sharp, so it kind of ruins some of that pixel blending and LCD like blurring that happens, that a lot of developers actually took advantage of to make their games look better. So it kind of kills some of that charm. But I might build some, throw them in the shop. It's always good to have. What else do we have going on? So yeah, we're working at the shop, doing some repairs on that stuff. I'm going to try and get through some consoles. Carly's been tackling Xbox controllers because we need a lot of them. I think she's knocked out at least 6 of them at home. She and I are going to try and tackle all the stuff at the bar as well. I have a lot of GameCube lasers coming in. I think I ordered 20 GameCube lasers, and I have probably 50 to 70 GameCubes that need them. But we're going to jump on those too. So we have GameCubes. Wii's are still hot. I mean, it's the best GameCube player there is. And, and you can play Wii Sports, which is good. I got a notification a minute ago while we were recording that speaking of remakes, Mr. Gimmick on the Switch finally shipped from Amazon. Thanks, Amazon. I'm excited to get that one because I just want to play Gimmick, and the remake looks cool. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm going to try and play some games probably tonight or tomorrow. I don't know exactly what yet. Okay, one thing we might do, and maybe we'll do this at my birthday. I'm going to get some OG Xboxes, and we're going to set up a Halo 2 tournament. Old school LAN party style. We'll load up on Mountain Dew and Doritos and all that stuff. And I want to just play Halo with my friends. Because I miss that. It's been a while. And I think it would be cool to have like 4 to 6 Xboxes set up in the bar, kind of like we do tournament style. Oh, speaking of tournaments, oh my god, I totally forgot. We bought some PS5s and Mortal Kombat 1, and we ran a Mortal Kombat 1 tournament on Sunday. And my god, was it one of the coolest tournaments we've ever run. All the time, Viper in the chat says we need to run Steel Battalion daisy chained, and we've actually talked about that. I had multiple Steel Battalion setups at one time, and I have friends that all own them, and I still have mine. So maybe we could do like a 4-player Steel Battalion thing. That would be kind of cool. There's also like a community that I'm a part of that has done some like pirate servers where they're running online, like large matches with Steel Battalion Frontlines or whatever that the online one was called. So that would be cool. But yeah, we ran a Mortal Kombat tournament, and the funny thing is, all of the FGC guys, the fighting game community guys, plus the Smash guys, they all hate on Mortal Kombat all the time. A lot of them are like, they turn their noses up. They're like, Mortal Kombat's stupid. It's not a real fighting game. Blah blah blah. Whatever. Every time we run a Mortal Kombat tournament, we have an amazing turnout, bigger than any Street Fighter tournament, bigger than any Smash tournament. Everybody is the most fun and like friendly people you will ever meet, and they just show up and they're like so happy because they just want to play games. That's all they want to do. They don't care about rankings. Like, yeah, sure, they want to win the money, but at the same time, like, it's so weird seeing a scene as strong as the Mortal Kombat scene because it's so ragtag and motley to a degree that it puts the other scenes to shame. And if there's a takeaway from that, it's that people like to play games. And that's for like reasons other than just like, I'm going to do the perfect wave dash and blah, blah, blah. And like all this stuff. Like it's so wild. I love when we do Mortal Kombat tournaments, and Mortal Kombat 1 was no exception to that. It was my first time playing the game. I know that like there was some early access stuff if you pre-ordered the premium editions. I'll be honest, I kind of forgot that it was PS5 only, or current gen consoles. So I had to go buy 2 PS5s, a couple copies of the game, and as I was installing it and buying the DLC and the character packs and all that, I played a couple of matches, and it's cool. It's super cool. I know some people are encountering some bugs. There's something about like player 1 having the advantage over player 2, like in a bug capacity. I didn't encounter any of that. Granted, I only played a handful of matches. But the cameo character thing, so you can call in a cameo character, kind of like Marvel for an assist, and you can like set up these combos where if you hit a button at the correct time, it will extend your combo with your cameo character. So there's a lot of variation in what you can do and a lot of freedom and creativity you have in the ways that you play the game. And the people that showed up Sunday, they they could play. I know our TO Tony, he went in super confident. I don't know where he ended up placing because I had to leave a little bit early, but he's very good at Mortal Kombat. Also, shout out to him. Great TO. He does an amazing job every Sunday that we run tournaments. He really keeps it flowing and going, and he's very good at Mortal Kombat. But there were some people that showed up that you're just like, have you been playing this game for a year, even though it's only been out for like 2 weeks? It's wild, and I've heard the storyline is fantastic. I need to bring a copy home and pop it in and play it. I might get another copy because we're going to need them for Really Rad Weekend, because that will be one of the tournaments at the con, and play through the story mode. It's a blast. It's hard. So if you put that CPU character on anything above medium, they do full string combos when you're playing against them, and it gets interesting really fast. I normally play as Jade, but she's not in there. So I was playing as Katana and Melina, and then I was using Sector and Cyrax as my cameo characters. And I don't know what I'm doing. I've been playing too much Street Fighter 6, so it was all like new to me, and I was trying to get stuff down. Blocking in that game because it's on a button is really tough. So that was cool. I'm not sure what our next tournament will be. I know Sam's got some stuff on the schedule, but I'm not exactly sure what or when. People have been asking for more Street Fighter, but people are already clamoring for more Mortal Kombat. And I can tell you right now, we're going to run more of it because it's a good scene, and it's a scene I want to see grow. So, super fun. Thanks for everybody that came out to that. If you listen to this, I loved it and can't wait for more. Let's see. What else? So, other than that, this week, I'm kind of in like budget mode. So I went grocery shopping, try and cut back on ordering out because we got a lot of traveling and expenses coming up. So I bought a bunch of meat that I'm gonna smoke and try and do some meal prep and whatever. As far as game stuff goes, I don't know, guys. Halloween's coming up. I don't know what releases are happening. My brain is fried. I'm finally recovered from Retropalooza, but I'm already in this like mental state that's like, oh god, the con's coming so fast. What are we gonna do? But shop's doing good. Bar's doing good, even though it's the off season. Like I said, we got my birthday event coming up, which we turned into an event. I don't know why. It's so stupid. Coming out for that. We've got our Halloween event to give away cash prizes for costumes. We're going to do something during the day for kids, too, where we give out candy. Yeah, that's about it. This is kind of a shorter episodes. We're coming in 4 minutes short. But what else? I'm trying to think. There was something else that I was going to say. Something to look out for on the Game Boy Color if you're collecting. It's my last like business thing of the day, night, whatever time it is. I think this is my shot call. I think certain games that are in the larger Game Boy Color cartridges, the clear ones, that have the built-in rumble features with the battery cover and all that, I think a lot of those are going to plateau and stay strong in value or increase in value over the next 3 years. Namely, the Top Gear games. A couple other ones. I think Missile Command's probably overproduced for that, but still has potential. Definitely into the pinball games. Things like that. I think that those are going to go up. I'm also seeing some interest in PS1 stuff. But we'll talk about PS1 stuff next week, which we're probably going to do an episode of Rad or Sad, including some PS1 purchases that I made recently. So that's cool. That'll be fun. But yeah, Twitch chat, thank you for being here live. We're going to wrap this one. Like I said, it's a little bit of a shorter episode. Next week I'll have some more stuff when I've taken more notes throughout the week and I have more to talk about. Let me know in the comments on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts what you think about game remakes and the market and things like that. Or if there's things you want me to talk about, send your questions over to info@radjunk.com. And in the subject line, put podcast question or, I don't know, sniffle waffles. And just, you know, if you guys like listening to this, awesome. If not, I'm going to keep doing it because I'm bored. I say I'm bored, but I'm overwhelmed. This is my outlet. You guys are my outlet. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Twitch chat. Like I said, this can be found at youtube.com/radjunk every week. We record every Thursday, and I upload immediately after, as soon as possible after, in video format to YouTube. Audio format is on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I think Google Podcasts is going away, so I don't know if it's on there. We have an RSS feed that kind of like simulcasts everywhere, which is neat. So yeah, until then, shop at RadJunk, drink and have fun at Rad Bar. If you don't drink, play some video games. Buy your tickets for Really Rad Weekend. They're on sale now, and they are discounted right now, but they will go up at the door. Also, book your hotel rooms fast. because I found out yesterday we are selling a lot more than I thought we were. But until next time, everybody stay rad, play some games, and send us questions. Farewell. We'll talk to you next Thursday.